Good afternoon, everybody. This is a live update as the chances of a tornado outbreak are appearing more and more likely, and those significant tornado probabilities have been expanded off to the north and the northwest, now including a large swath of southeastern Missouri, central and southern Illinois, all the way up touching the southwestern portion of Ohio. And I think that there is a chance of even some QLCS tornadoes as far northeast as that. It does look like the models are trending just a little bit north with a more significant area, but you can see a reinvigoration of that line. I've got the radar looping from the latest HRRR model. I've got the latest SBC outlook as well below my head there. That's the significant tornado probabilities are the hatch area there. Threat of strong tornadoes, could even be long track tornadoes. I do think that if a tornado touches down in this environment, the storm motions are going to be moving so fast at 50 to 60 miles an hour, maybe even faster than that, I think any tornado that does touch down is likely going to be long track, even those relatively brief tornadoes. And I think that threat of embedded tornadoes within the line is going to expand into the southeastern U.S. Saturday morning and on. And it looks like at about Saturday mid to late morning, look at that line marching across the southeast. I do think there's going to be embedded circulations within that squall line, potentially even reinvigorating there in the central South Carolina with that tornado threat on Saturday. But you can really see the environment and how it evolves using this EHI loop. This is a composite index that includes the 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative felicity and surface-based CAPE. And you can see that warm sector really expands, blows up after about 7 or 8 p.m. And those storms could initiate as early as 6 or 7 p.m. there to the southwest of St. Louis. And then those storms are going to move off to the northeast into central and southern Illinois. But look at that warm sector. Rapidly instability building northward with that southwesterly low-level jet increasing about 50 to 60 knots, moisture funneling up the Mississippi River Valley, but then bam, that's when storms initiate southeastern Missouri and they spread into central and southern Illinois with time. And another great way to look at severe weather is by using these ensemble maps. This is the HREF, which basically puts together all of the short-range models, the HRRR, the WRF models, the NAM as well. Takes a run mean. And the red colors here, that's 0 to 1 kilometer shear. And you can also step forward with time. This is at 2Z, so this is 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can see those little black dots that are in there. Those are updraft helicity, basically the presence of some mesocyclones that are developing. And you can see that they first fire at about 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, maybe deep into the Ozarks there of south central Missouri, north central Arkansas as well. Those storms first appear. This is after sunset, so this is going to be a purely nocturnal chase. My live stream later on today is going to be it's going to look like I'm driving around a lot at night. There's going to be some lightning out there as well that you're going to see, but you could definitely we'll be able to see those tornadoes as well, potentially through lightning flashes as well as those power flashes, maybe in the lights as well. I'm going to use the best of my ability, the technology that I have, to open those shutters and try to show you what the storm structure looks like. But look at those storms first develop south central Missouri into north central Arkansas. That's at 1Z, so this is 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you move forward, and it looks like St. Louis could be impacted as well. And you can see that the stronger 0 to 1 kilometer shear, the darker reds, are definitely St. Louis area and off to the north, but they do increase further south as the night advances. This is also an average amongst all of those model members, but it does show that northward shift. Look at 3Z. This is about 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're going to have an arc of those supercells, those black dots and lines. That's updraft helicity showing the presence, basically the coverage of those storms. And look at those ones in eastern Arkansas developing down there. Those are going to have tornado potential approaching the Memphis area by about 9 or 10 p.m. Looks like there could even be supercells all the way up into northern Chicago, or northern Illinois, just to the west of Chicago. Very strong wind shear up there. Relatively low instability into northern Illinois. But as you go forward, look at those supercells expand by about 4Z. This outbreak is likely going to be peaking in coverage. Eastern Arkansas approaching the Mississippi River by this time, by about 10 or 11 p.m., approaching Memphis as well. Southern Illinois, central Illinois. Eventually, they're going to march into Indiana as well. So look at that. Potentially discrete supercells by this time as well. These are out ahead of the front, basically a prefrontal confluence line. And you can still see decent shear as well off to the south along that convective line. And it does look like after midnight, about 2, 3 in the morning, that line could arrive into the Memphis area with some embedded or into the Nashville area with some embedded circulations, embedded tornadoes. And it looks like that tornado threat could extend all the way down into northwestern Alabama as we advance this with time. You can see that updraft helicity there, even showing some of those embedded circulations. By the time it reaches western North Carolina, though, you really start to lose your low-level shear. There could be a reinvigoration of that instability into central South Carolina by afternoon. But look at that wind shear eject all the way into the northeast. You just have those yellows down there, about 100 to 150, 0 to 1 kilometer shear. So this is a nighttime event tonight. Definitely going to peak tonight. I do think that there is a threat of tornadoes into Saturday morning and afternoon into the southeastern U.S. with that skinny squall line that's going to march off to the east. But this is a great tool to look at the ensembles and look at the uncertainty. And you can definitely see this northward shift within this model data as well. You can see that slight northward shift happening. So let's take a look now at the HRRR and zoom in a little bit closer to these individual modes. I first want to look at that mode that develops in south central Missouri into north central Arkansas. I think that that's the mode that I want to look at first. We'll take a look at the HRRR does a good job with these nocturnal events with low-level thermodynamics. Seems to do the best job. It doesn't have that cold bias at night as well that some of the models have. So even though I don't necessarily like the HRRR when it comes to daytime, traditional, late afternoon into evening events, where it might overdo the mixing, that usually, let me see if I could pull up. There we go, pulling up this model imagery. So I want to take a look at the HRRR first. This is the 11Z HRRR, and let's focus in on this northern mode that develops first in southern Missouri. There is a chance of some daytime storms that could happen up here as well by 10 o'clock, by the 10-hour forecast, 21Z, 4 p.m. You can see temperatures rising up near 70 degrees southwest of St. Louis. Temperatures rising up into the mid-70s down into Arkansas as well. Let's take a look at the surface-based CAPE with this model. And look at that axis, big CAPE building up through the Mississippi River, Mississippi River Valley, northwestern Mississippi by this time. That's approaching 3,000 CAPE there along that Mississippi River Valley. You can see that the cold front way back to the northwest, just an expanding warm sector by 21Z. And this is by 0Z. You're a little bit after sunset here, so you definitely start to lose that extreme CAPE that you had down into the Mississippi River Valley. You may wonder with that big CAPE if there is a chance of getting some daytime bubblers down there, maybe a couple renegade supercells that could develop within that environment. Let's take a look at a couple forecast soundings down here near the Tunica area. And there is an abundance of that surface-based instability with this sounding. Let me show you the hodograph as well to show you that that wind shear just is supportive of tornadoes, but that 1 kilometer wind there, the low-level jet, is definitely going to increase a lot. You're definitely going to widen these hodographs in the overnight hours. But it does look like that capping inversion is broken there. You can see that little ripple, that little increase in that temperature. That's a capping inversion, that increasing temperature with height right there. And if those updrafts are able to clear that capping inversion, then they can tap into this CAPE aloft and those steeper lapse rates. You can see a dry pocket of air. That's because of that closed upper low that's off of Baja that ejects almost like a jet streak, but passes over the Mexican plateau, picking up that dry air in the mid-levels of the troposphere, helping to steepen those mid-level lapse rates up there, get a little bit more CAPE as well. But if you could break through that capping inversion, then I think that there is tornado potential into northwestern Mississippi. You're talking about an 80/69 type of a profile. Very steep, low-level lapse rates. Your 0 to 3 kilometer CAPE is going to be abundant with this type of a setup. Your 0 to 1 kilometer shear is a bit marginal with this smallish hodograph, but those are going to rapidly increase in size as you get a little bit, especially after 0Z and in the overnight hours. But you can see this surface space instability reaching all the way up to the Kansas City area by 0Z, dry line near the Kansas-Missouri border. You got to wonder if there's even going to be convective initiation further west up there, just to the south of the Kansas City area. Probably not. It's probably going to be out ahead of it. Oh, look at that, is nasty. Right there, everybody. Now, this is how it evolves with these supercell storms developing to the west of St. Louis. This is at about 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the 11ZH-RRR that we're looking at here. Look at those renegades developing up through western Kentucky, southeastern Missouri out ahead of everything. You can see these bands of prefrontal confluence here. This is gonna be a problem tonight, even though this main convective band that develops to the west of St. Louis. Look at these prefrontal confluence bands. Even up into southwestern Indiana by 2Z. Could be some renegades lifting up there. Southwestern Indiana up toward Indianapolis. Just tornadic supercells all over the place through the Ozark Mountain region, up out ahead, Cape Girardeau, southern Illinois, into southern Indiana as well. These are going to be renegades. These are going to be a problem into southern Indiana. This is at 3Z, 9:10 p.m. This is one model of the HRRR, but this is a big time problem. Those are discrete supercell storms that are all over that warm sector right there. It's going to be difficult even to keep track of all these tornado warnings if this convective scenario evolves. I'm definitely not going to go all the way west to the south of Kansas City and try to intercept an early storm. I'll just wait out here, likely over southeastern Missouri into southern Illinois. I'm not going to bank on these lead renegades into southwestern Indiana, but I do think that the potential exists. This is a large warm sector, a lot of surface space instability. There's going to be tornadoes coming out of the Ozarks tonight. This is at 4Z here, so this is at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And look at this, southern Illinois into southwestern Indiana. These renegades will already have likely produced tornadoes with that initial round. Likely going to be embedded tornadoes as well into central, even northern Illinois, even up pretty tight to Chicago. Could get some tornadic activity up there, up to the west of I-55. So this is going to be an outbreak, a tornado outbreak. I would say a couple of dozen of tornadoes certainly are possible. Look at these tornadoes here, southern Illinois into southern Indiana. This is a mode that I'm going to chase, starting out probably down near Lake Girardeau, across southern Illinois into southern Indiana there, with time eventually passing into western Kentucky as well. Really quickly, we can see how this is evolving too. And look at how that's changed from the 6Z to the 11Z HRRR. So it is trending toward a lot more convective initiation, and that's what we thought would happen. We've been watching this setup for days, and how this trough was going to pick up that cutoff flow off of Baja and then eject it across the warm sector. We've been talking about negative versus positive versus neutral tilts the entire time. Realizing, though, that you don't need a negative tilt to get a big tornado outbreak. I have seen, some of the biggest tornado outbreaks in history are from troughs with a slight positive tilt. And one thing with a positively tilted trough is it does often have a large warm sector, because a lot of that flow is on the east side of the trough, and they can be associated with large warm sectors that have an abundance of bulk shear, big low-level shear over it as well. And anytime you get these massive multi-state warm sectors like this, it's very easy that across large areas within that warm sector, photographs and the low-level thermodynamics will come together for even a strong tornado threat. And looking at this, I think that there is certainly a strong tornado threat. Definitely the short-range models are very concerning as we're getting closer to this event. Looking at the 0 to 1 kilometer EHI at this time, this is going to be what's available to these renegade storms. Southern Illinois, southern Indiana, western Kentucky, southeastern Missouri. Any storm embedded within this environment, you're going to have a strong long-track tornado if that storm is surface-based. PDS soundings everywhere within those brighter colors, within those EHIs. This is a PDS sounding here, and that just looks like a classic central and eastern U.S. Outbreak type of a photograph. Your critical angle is relatively shallow, but it's compensated by a near 70-knot low-level jet. Southwesterly low-level jet pushing 70 knots. Hurricane force winds basically just above the ground, about a kilometer up. I remember commenting on that during the super outbreak of April 27, 2011, where the winds at the surface were like 10 knots, and then we were commenting at the winds at the top of the radio tower, likely 70 knots and more. And that shows you that extreme low-level shear in the lowest hundreds of meters of the atmosphere. This dry pocket of air, this is that elevated mix layer right here that we've been talking about that the models have been underdoing, and that closed upper level low getting slingshotted over northern Mexico, picking up that dry air over the Mexican plateau and ejecting over the east side of the trough is what results in that dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, an abundance of CAPE. The 3-kilometer NAM, the convective allowing models have picked up on that enhanced CAPE as well. Looking at your 0 to 1 kilometer shear, not surprising that there's PDS soundings. This map is lit up like a Christmas tree. 300 plus 0 to 1 kilometer shear all the way back into eastern Arkansas. This is at 5Z here. Look at the shear in Indiana. Purple's up there. Just any storm, surface-based storm, and even a squall line that pushes into this environment is going to be capable of producing destructive tornadoes. You can see all these renegades. I could even see this being one of the bigger outbreaks of the season. So it's very important to stay tuned to those watches and those warnings overnight tonight if you live in this area. This is all 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative helicity. Definitely looks like a dangerous event tonight. You want to keep those weather radios tuned up. You're going to have prefrontal confluence bands. This is the main cold front back here into central Missouri at 5Z by 10 or 11 p.m. And you can see these bands of confluence on the synoptic scale, even large mesoscale confluence bands. And these are what fire band after band of these supercell storms. The 3-kilometer NAM definitely has a slight cold bias at the low levels, and that's why it doesn't have as many storms here in the late night hours. Kind of overestimates the presence of that nocturnal inversion a little bit. The HRRR admittedly does a great job with those low-level thermodynamics. But look at the significant tornado parameter. This is at 5Z, really centered over southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois. Looks like the 3-kilometer NAM is a little bit slower in its evolution. Look at that. That's the 3-kilometer NAM, 0 to 1 kilometer EHI. And that is the HRRR. I think that the higher resolution HRRR seems to have a better handle on the rapid evolution of that warm sector and the surface-based instability within that multiple state area. So I tend to side with the HRRR on these nocturnal outbreaks. You'll have tornadic supercells developing in an arc here to the west of St. Louis. You'll have tornadic supercells developing within these prefrontal confluence bands, southeastern Missouri down into eastern Arkansas after 7, 8 p.m. You'll also have supercells developing on the leading nose of this moisture as it punches into southwestern Indiana as well. The HRRR is indicating those renegades from moving from southwestern Indiana toward the Indianapolis area. And the model trend from 6Z to 11Z is to even more dramatic. Here, this is your significant tornado parameter by 1Z. Memphis, some purples out there, PDS photographs all over the place here. A large section of central and southeastern Missouri under that extreme wind shear with this slower trough ejection. But notice how it is such a rapid area, or such a massive area in this warm sector as well. This is at 2Z, and it only gets worse with time as you get a greater abundance of these storms. But definitely this environment, central southern Illinois, central southeastern Missouri, into central and southern Indiana, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, northeastern Arkansas, big problems. Outbreak of tornadoes expected later on tonight, and I'll be chasing it, storm chase mode, streaming live as well. Thank you, Facebook supporters, for making live storm chasing and these live briefings possible. If you do live in this area outlined during this briefing, definitely stay safe tonight. Stay tuned to those watches and warnings. Have a safety plan in place. I'll be going live once I hit the road, and I'll continue to update you on these forecast models as they evolve. I'm going to be heading toward Cape Girardeau, just a couple-hour drive up there to the northwest. So thank you, everybody. Stay tuned. Big storm system on the way. Looks like this thing is going to be pretty substantial outbreak tonight with dozens of potentially dangerous tornadoes. Stay safe, everybody. I'll be live here as I hit the road and blast northwest toward my target area.